Okay, so let's continue the course on fusion category. So we are still working on monoidal category, and last time we provided example of monoidal functor. So we discussed last time. We discussed we in fact we said that so a monoidal functor between vec g1 omega 1 and vec g2 omega 2, and we shown that such a functor is given. So it's given by two map f and c'est quoi on dit? Two map like that. So the functor was denoted like that. F. Wait. Denoted and denoted F like that. So F, where F is from G1 to G2 morphism of group, and mu, so mu G1 cross Z2 to K star. The map such that we have what we call the first relation. So the monoidal structure of the so you have the monoidal structure like that, GH, which is given by the map mu, identity of the trivial, of the one-dimensional simple object FGH. So this is the first relation, and the second relation. So wait. So the second relation, where is it? Oh, yeah. The relation is as follows: mu GHL mu HL omega 2 f of G f of L equal to omega 1 GHL mu GHL mu GH for all GHL in G1. So so a monoidal functor between these two monoidal category is completely determined by such data. And now we will determine the monoidal transformation between two such monoidal functors. So now we will investigate so In the book, Tensor Category of Ettinghoff, Nitschik, Gielaki, Ostrick, there, all these relations are related to some, can be reformulated in terms of something in cohomology theory. But I am not so comfortable with that. So I just write the exact relation, and you can translate that in terms of something cohomologically, etc. So you can have a look to the book, which is, as I said, already available online. So let's investigate. Let us investigate the natural transformation between two natural monoidal transformation. Natural monoidal transformation. Monoidal transformation between two monoidal functors okay. So let's call monoidal transformation. So you have so monoidal transformation, we call it eta f mu f prime u prime. So natural transformation. So we, as before, we reduce to the simple object delta G. So for all morphism alpha delta G to delta H. So what should we do? So natural transformation. So let's just follow. You have F mu delta G eta G. So you map one functor to the other functor, and the object is unchanged. Or you apply the morphism alpha. The functor of the morphism alpha. You apply the functor on the morphism alpha, and then you change what is inside the functor f, like that. So, tac. Here you apply eta h. H, and here the functor f mu of alpha. So for all morphisms, the following commute. This is the definition of natural transformation. So you can reformulate. So you so how to, so you can we can reduce to alpha equal to So zero if H is different from G, one otherwise, times the identity. So we don't need to care about the constant here because alpha is, if H equals G, alpha is just given by one constant, but here, to characterize this natural transformation, you don't need to care about this constant. So you only need to care to consider alpha to be the identity. And then you just get, if you reformulate everything, you get something like that. Fg, eta G, delta F prime of G. Here, so you have GH. So here, delta GH is not a, so this is a confusing notation, but delta is just a Kronecker symbol. Just it is not a simple object. Identity of delta f of G, delta f of G. Here you apply yeah, f of H. But of course, f equals G if the morphism is non-zero. Eta H delta f prime of H, and here delta GH, identity of delta f of G. Okay. So commute. So what is the point of writing all these details is that you should okay. We will deduce a constraint on eta. So we see observe. So observe that eta G different from 0 if only if Fg is equal to F prime G. So you take H equal G. If you take H equal G, you take H equal G, so you have identity. Yeah. Because you compose with identity. You take H equal G, and then you compose with identity. Here you have F, and here you have F prime. So if you go by there and by there, you should the same. If you go by there and by there. Identity. Yeah. So it's just a constant. So eta is just a constant here. So here you see you have f equal f prime. You take H equal G. So it's a bit. Just need to think a bit about that. It's not complicated. So so now. Okay. So we will show. Let's show let's show that for all G, eta G is different from 0. For all G, eta G is different from 0. Then, and then, so that f equal f prime. Okay. So why? C'est où ça? Okay. So we have the relation. We have the relation. So see previous lecture. Mu prime of GH eta G tensor eta H equal eta GH mu GH. This relation okay. Yeah. So it should come from a modal structure or natural transformation structure. I don't remember. But anyway, so you have that, and now take H equal G inverse. So you get mu prime G inverse mu G inverse equal mu E. So E equal G inverse, the neutral element. Mu G inverse. But mu eta, so you should eta E so is equivalent by definition to the identity of by definition should be taken like that. So here there is we identify the morphism and the scalar because it's a morphism on the one-dimensional space. So as a scalar, eta E is different from 0. So, but mu and mu prime mu prime mu prime are maps to they map to K star, so non-zero. So you have something non-zero on the right. So on the left, it cannot be 0. So this implies that eta G is different from 0. Okay. So you get that F is equal to F prime. So this is a proof. So I should write that. So we prove that we should have F equal to F prime. If we want to have a natural monoidal transformation between these two monoidal functors. So, okay. So what next? So it's not enough. Next. Okay. Now, so we prove. So we proved that f equal f prime. So f prime is not the derivation; it's only another map. So okay. Okay. So what about next? Let's see. Recall that by convention, what we wrote convention, eta e is just the identity of delta e. It is isomorphic to the identity, but by all what we did before, we said by convention, without proof of generality, we can take it to be equal. So we take it equal. So now, what about the monoidal structure? So we have, so in general, so now, what about the monoidal structure? So general, let's recall the general diagram. So f1x tensor f like that. G1 x y f prime. Here you apply the natural transformation. So x tensor y f2 x 2 y. We apply the monoidal structure to xy. 2 xy. Yeah. Eta x tensor y. Okay. So here, so we can reformulate. We can just you replace every functor, but by the functor we are interested in, and we, of course, you reduce to the simple case, simple object. So for all GH in G, we have delta f of G, delta f of H, eta G, eta H, okay, delta f prime of G, delta f prime of H. Here, mu GH identity, delta f of GH, eta GH, delta f prime of GH, and to commute mu prime GH identity. So so we get, so let let call eta tilde from G1 to K star, the scalar corresponding to eta. So I mean eta G equal eta G identity, like that. So as I said, this natural transformation between two simple objects is live in a one-dimensional space, so it's reduced to a scalar. Okay, then you can summarize as follow. Mu tilde gh, no, eta tilde gh time mu gh equal mu prime gh mu g tilde time mu hd. And as before, so theorem. So I will not take summary theorem. I want to say summary theorem. Summary theorem. So this equation we summarize the above commuting diagram, and the theorem say that it completely characterizes this relation. So this data with this relation completely characterize a natural transformation. Such a natural transformation. In fact, this is completely straightforward because you just check every axiom and you get this equation. So this equation is equivalent to the axiom, so it's okay. Okay. So it's not clear. So it's here, it's the data of the map and this relation completely characterized. So I should say data plus data plus relation completely characterized natural transformation. Okay. Okay. So now we will see an example. We will see how. So it's finished for that. We will see how the three co-cycle look like. So we were talking about the monoidal category vec G omega. So if you take G a cyclic group, what omega look like in general? So now so we are done with previous investigation. Now, let's see. what omega, the 3 cocycle, look like for vec G omega with G equals Cn. So the cyclic group G such as cyclic group of order n. So this is a way to write a group by generator and relation. So you can write every finitely, you can write every discrete group like that. So it's a full branch of mathematics. If you're interested in a geometric group theory, you can define discrete group by generator and relation, and you can make Kelly graph, etc. But here, trivial way. So oh, maybe I forget something. Wait. So wait, just I have something to say just before that. I will just put that here. Just a remark. So exercise remark. By above investigation, the 3 cocycle omega for vec G omega can always be taken normalized, which means omega G1H equal 1 for all GH in G. And then L delta G equal R delta G equal identity of delta G. So so when you are when you need to make some computation with such object, in particular for people interested in topological quantum field theory, you can make topological invariant from monoidal category for such a fusion category, and so you can consider some complicated topological space in which you make this invariant, and you need to make some computation, and it's more convenient to use the normalized way to get normalized, not the normalized version of this category. So without loss of generality. So you should prove. So in the previous investigation, we classified all the possible monoidal functor and monoidal transformation. So I guess there should be a way to prove that every such monoidal category is equivalent to a category with which is normalized, something like that. Okay. So let's come back to what I was talking about. The cyclic group, what's the co-cycle look like? Okay. So we consider, let's consider the element. So we take the cyclic group with this presentation and we consider the element of Cn as G power A with A in Z and so G A plus N equal G by the previous relation. So we need to consider the element of this form. And now every three co-cycle, so we only need so we can reduce. So it's a yeah. We can. I will see this as an exercise. So so omega S of G A G B G C. So you have three elements to be. So this is a three co-cycle. Exponential of 2 pi n times S. So S is this S. So we give a family of three co-cycle. Consider un problème. Family of three co-cycle. So family parameterized by S. So S is a parameter. So you have A, B, C. B like that times A times like that B plus C over N. S is like that. So and this sign mean the integral part. So B plus C is over N is a rational. And this is integral part, or sometimes it's called the floor. So the formula here I give here is not this, it's a simplification of the formula provided in the book. The formula I provided in the book is, I don't understand, it's quite complicated. You can summarize it like, you can simplify it like that. I don't know. I don't understand why they wrote such a complicated formula. Okay. So exercise. Show that it's a three co-cycle. And classify categorical equivalence classes of vec G omega. So I mean vec G omega. Well, omega is omega cyclic, G cyclic group. Is monoidally equivalent to vec G omega prime if and only if, so monoidally equivalent. G is equivalent to G prime and omega prime satisfy etc. So this is the exercise. So we already know the relation for omega and omega prime in general, but we want to reformulate it explicitly according to the Haber formula. Maybe a relation between S relation between, so you have omega S prime or something like that. Between S and S prime, etc. So it's an exercise. Exercise. Okay. So it's almost time for the pause. So it's good to stop here for the pause because I will change the section. So we will talk about group action of categories and equivariantization. So pause. Okay. So let's restart. So now we will talk about group action of category and equivariantization. Group action on category and on monoidal category. And equivariantization. So the equivariantization is a way to make a category, to make a new category. So I will explain now. So group action of category and equivariantization. Okay. So let's see. Let's see be a category. Consider the monoidal category hot C. So where the object, so the object of hot C. So I should write like that to avoid confusion. Okay. So the object of OTS. So the equivalence of category of C. So the functor between C and C, which are equivalents. The morphism, the natural isomorphism, so natural transformation, which are natural isomorphism. And monoidal structure. F, so F from C to C. Equivalence. F tensor G, just the composition. So you see here, I talk about equivalence of category, natural isomorphism, but in general, you can consider every morphism and every natural transformation, and this is called, so it's a monoidal. It's a monoidal subcategory of end G. For endo mean endo functor, so functor from C to itself, where so it's a generalization. You don't restrict to equivalence, but you take every functor. So where object functor F from C to C, not just equivalence, and morphism, natural transformation, not just the natural isomorphism. We will consider this monoidal category later in the MacLane strictness theorem. So you should remember this monoidal category functor. So if C, so C here is not in general, is not a monoidal category, it's just a category. Now, if C is monoidal category, is a monoidal category. C is a monoidal category. We can make consider the monoidal category hot tensor C. And what's the difference between the two? Is that everywhere you should say the monoidal functor, monoidal transformation, etc. So the monoidal category, I consider the monoidal category of monoidal equivalence of C. Above is just equivalence. And if you put that, you need monoidal equivalence. If C is a monoidal category. Okay. So now we will define the action of a group G on a category or on a monoidal category. And the definition will involve this modular category hot C or hot tensor C. Hot tensor C like that. So let G be a group consider. So to define the action, we need to define a specific monoidal category for the group G. Consider the monoidal category cat G, where the object are just the element of G, the morphism so cat G, so the set between G and H, this is just the identity of the object G if G equal H and empty otherwise. There is no otherwise. So it's a strict way, in some sense, to make a category from a group G. And the tensor, the monoidal structure, just given by the multiplication of the group. Okay, so definition. So we will use this category and this category or this category to define the action of a group on a category or on a monoidal category with that. Okay, so definition. So one for general case and one for the monoidal case. Action of G on category C is the monoidal functor. So it's a monoidal functor T from cat G to hot C. And for the so action of G on monoidal category C is a monoidal functor T T cat G to hot tensor C. So the only difference here, so both are monoidal functor, but here it's for monoidal category you need that. Okay. So an action on a category is given by a monoidal functor. From this category made from G to this category made from C. Okay. So so consider one action. So let the map from G to TG. So TG in automorphism of C. Such an action. So G here is an element of the category cat-G. So T. Okay. And consider now the monoidal structure. So for all GH, let gamma GH from TG composed with TH, TGH be the monoidal structure. So this is so the general recall that the general notation for that modular structure is what we call the natural isomorphism G defined by such like that. Tensor prime Fy to F tensor Y. So here, this is because the tensor, the composition here, this is the tensor product of C. The tensor product is given by a composition. And here, the product of in G, this is a tensor product of cat G. So this you really, this is a monoidal structure like that. So you have so you denote here, we denote this monoidal structure like that, gamma GH. Okay. So definition. We will define what is a G equivariant object of the category C. And we will define what is the morphism between this G equivariant object and the category of the G equivariant object will be called the G equivariantization of C. So let's define what is a G equivariant object. And to be motivated by that, in fact, if you take the category VEC, the G equivariantization of VEC is the category of representation of G, the rep G. So the operation of G equivariantization is very deep because you can, from the trivial category VEC, you can make the category rep G, which is very important. So this operation is non-trivial and important. So what is a G equivariant object? So definition, G equivariant object in C. So it's a pair it is a pair X U where X is an object. So is an object object of C, and U is a family of isomorphism UG from TGX between TGX and X, where G G in G. So G equivalent object. So it's not really a G equivalent object. It's not really an object of C. It's a pair. So you have X and something else. So the category of G equivalent object is not a subcategory of C. It's so this is a very usual construction. Very often in monoidal category, you construct a new monoidal category by a pair. That is not. This is not the first time you have a pair. I guess you can. We will define later the Drinfeld the center. It's not. It generalizes the center of a group, but it's not really a subcategory. It's a pair, and you always the other component of the pair is always kind of isomorphism, providing the structure. Here it's an isomorphism, family of isomorphism like that. Okay. But it's not enough. So you have such that you have a commuting diagram such that so I need some place such that so ST for such that you have the following commuting diagram. So T, you start from TG THX. And here, so this is wait. So TG composed with TH of X, like that. So we know we have this, so the monoidal structure. So you apply the monoidal structure here, gamma GH of X. So where is it? Yeah. And you get TGH of X. You apply the now you apply that. You can apply that on the right. So TG inside the functor TG like that. So TG UH TG of X. Here you apply UG, so you get X, And here you can apply UGH. So commute for all GH in G. So a G equivariant object of C is a pair, X is an object of C, and U is a family of isomorphism such that the following diagram commutes. And you see, in fact, you have a family of isomorphism like that. And if you have this family of isomorphism, you have I want to point out that it's almost automatic to require such a commuting diagram. Otherwise, you will have a kind of ambiguity. Because you have two ways to go to the same point. So it's quite natural to ask for such commuting diagram. This does not require imagination. It's almost automatic. Okay. So this is G equivalent object. So we want to make a category of G equivalent object. So what are the morphism between such objects? So we will define the morphism between such objects as follows. And as before, it's quite automatic. So morphism between G equivariant object of C. So you want a morphism. Let's call the morphism like that. So F between this object and another object. So you have two equivalent objects. And we want to define a morphism called F tilde, like that. So you define as follow. Defined by. So you have a morphism between X and Y. Morphism. And the following commuting diagram. So you start from T, G of X. Here you apply this again. So you can you go to get X. You apply UG. But you can also apply F under the functor TG. So you get TG of Y. And here, so you have the monoidal structure, not the G equivalent object for Y. You have the family V. So here you can apply V. You apply VG and you get Y. And here you just apply F. So a commuting diagram for all G. So this is a way to define a morphism The natural way to define a morphism between two G equivariant objects. Okay. And we call this morphism F tilde. Okay. Okay. The category of G equivariant object of C defined as above is called G equivariantization. Equivariantization of C, denoted and denoted and denoted C power G. So you have the forgetful functor from C power G C power G to C X U just map to X. So you forget the family of isomorphism U. Now, if C is a monoidal functor, so you can make exactly the same construction and you replace the monoidal functor, monoidal category. Replace hot C by hot tensor C and you will get so it's a bit confusing because in the book they called that with the same name. So we get a monoidal structure on CG. Yeah. So if C is a monoidal category, then you replace by that, and that you replace everywhere by that. So you take the definition, you take this definition, the definition of an action for a monoidal category. And what you get here will have a monoidal structure also. And forg. So the forgetful functor, the above forgetful functor. Will be the monoidal functor. Okay. So exercise. Take C to be the the category vec. Then show that CG is equivalent to the category of representation of the group on the group. Okay. So il reste 10 minutes. So it remains 10 minutes. So we can briefly start the next section. The next section is about McLean strictness theorem. So I guess we will prove that tomorrow. I guess we will not have even time to state it because we need to define what is a strict monoidal category, and we will provide several examples of strict monoidal category. And so the strict McLean strictness theorem says that any monoidal category is monoidally equivalent to a strict monoidal category. So we will define what is a strict monoidal category. We will provide example of strict monoidal category, and we will say that these examples are monoidally equivalent to example we provided before. And this will be a good way to illustrate the. So from such example, you can ask yourself, or is it true in general that every monoidal category is equivalent to strict one? And in fact, it is true. And this is what we will prove tomorrow. So, definition. A monoidal category C is strict if for all x, y, z, for all objects. So you have so the associativity is not just, so you have an equality. In general, these two objects are isomorphic, but in a strict monoidal category, they are equal. These two are equal. So in a strict by definition, and also the tensor product by x is also by 1 is also trivial. And of course, you can have, even if these two objects are equal, you can take associativity constraint to be a non-trivial, non-identity morphism, but in a strict monoidal category, you also assume that the associativity constraint and the unity constraint are identity map. So this make the pentagon axiom trivial. Everything is identity. So first example. Yeah. First example. So I will do. The example I already mentioned before, briefly. I will rewrite it in more detail because this is a central example for the MacLane strictness theorem. So example. The first example, let's see, be a category. So and, as I said before, and C. Let and C be the monoidal category. It's okay. C'est 5 minutes. Monoidal category of endofunctor. So endofunctor means functor from C to C. So object. So objects are just the functor from C to C. Functors and the morphism. The natural transformation between two functors from C to C. The tensor product is given by the composition 1 F2. Tensor product of the morphism of the object. Okay, so exercise and C is a strict monoidal category. So this is very important category. Yeah. So it remains 3 minutes. So it's an exercise. So you should make it as an exercise. Okay, so I guess we can stop here. So tomorrow I will start by providing new other example of strict monoidal category. The first one will be the strict monoidal category related to the category of set. In some sense, it's a strictification of the category of set. And then we will provide the example of strictification of the category vec. And yeah, okay. So let's stop here. So.